Warm welcome to Mechanical Workshop. Here we will be giving training in various disciplines like carpentry, then foundry, smithy, sheet metal work, welding, fitting and assembly, and also the 3D printing. I will tell you about each item afterwards. Before that, we will have to look into safety precautions followed in any workshop. There are two types of safety: personal safety as well as equipment safety. First, I will tell about personal safety. The personal safety means you have to follow the safety to protect you from the injuries may happen in a workshop. The first item you have to follow is you have to wear a tight cloth. Usually lab cloth you can use, because if you are using a loose cloth, sometimes we will be doing the work very near to a rotating machinery. Then it may catch your loose dress and accident may happen. In order to avoid, you always use lab coat. Then sometimes some sharp items may be laying in the shop floor. Then if you are using an ordinary chapel, etc., it may pierce your feet. So always use a thick soled and covered shoe, so that if anything is laying in the shop floor, it may not pierce your feet. And also, if any small tools will be falling down, if the covered shoe is there, it will protect your feet. Then actually no permission is given to use the ornament like long chain, etc. It may catch on a rotating machine. And also sometimes we are doing the work near to a supply point, you may get shot through the long chain. Then do not switch on any machinery if you doesn't know it's working, and it's a switch, how to switch off the item or switch on the item. See, usually we will be using sharp tools like chisel. For example, the chisel used in a carpentry shop, that is very sharp. And if you are putting that one in your pocket, it may sometimes it may injure your body. So never put the sharp tools in your pocket. See, usually oils will be used in a mechanical workshop, not only in any workshop. So, in order to lubricate the machine, etc. Sometimes some oil may be splashed in the shop floor, and if you are running in the shop floor, you may fall down, slip and fall down. So, never run inside a workshop. And also sometimes you will be holding a sharp tool like a scriber. Scriber is used to mark on a sheet metal. So it is a sharpened tool, and if you are running with the item in your hand and another person is coming opposite, sometimes it may collide yourself and injury may happen. See, in a hazardous area, we have to use a helmet. For example, in a smithy shop. In smithy shop, usually hot item is striken by a hammer, and sometimes the item may be flying from your tongs. You will be holding with the tongs the hot item, and if the item is flying from the holding device like tongs, and it may fall down in another person's head. In order to avoid that one, usually a helmet is used. that is called safety helmets. You might have seen in this civil construction area. Usually, helmet is weared so that any item falling from the top, it may protect your head. See, sometimes the live wire may be laying in the shop floor. Do not touch the live wire. See, here I will be giving training in the welding. So never keep any flammable item like paint, petrol, kerosene, etc. Very near to the welding area. Before starting welding, you check whether any flammable item is there, like paint. Sometimes paint will be using here, so never keep the paint or turpentine, etc. near to the painting area, welding area. See, sometimes somebody will be bringing in a closed vessel and telling to weld to prevent the leak. For example, a petrol tank. See, never weld a petrol tank in a welding area. If you want suppose you want to weld a petrol tank, what you have to do is fill with water and weld from outside. Then no bursting will happen. Similarly, in any workshop, it is a custom to use a fire extinguisher. You have to check whether the fire extinguisher is ready and its date is not exhausted. That you can. I will show you a fire extinguisher what we are using here and how to use it. Also, I will tell you how to use it. In any workshop, you should know the main switch of the power supply, so that you can switch off the power supply if any accident happens. These are the main safety features you have to look into any workshop. See, this is the fire extinguisher. What you have to do if any fire extinguisher is required, then you pull this pin. After that, you remove this safety item kept. Then what you have to do? You push before that you take the item. The exit point is the exit point. Then you have to keep this cylinder very near to the place where you are operating. Then press this item. Then the item will be coming through this hole. See, you can see here some dates. This is the refilled on. You can see the rate 10/6/2020, and this can use up to the next due date, that is 1/6/2021. Up to that date, this can be used. So always refill the item or replenish the item given in the label. Dear students, today we will discuss about the general tools used in almost all workshops. The first item we will be using the measuring tools. For example, usually a steel rule is used to measure the dimension of any item. In order to select the raw material onwards, we required measuring instruments. The second item, usually we will be using a vernier caliper to check accurately. Usually the accuracy of the vernier caliper is 0.02 millimeters. So we can accurately measure the size of any item. You can see the item, and I will tell you the parts of a vernier caliper. This is called fixed jaw, this one, and this is a movable jaw. And movable jaw is connected with another thumb screw to accurately adjust the dimension. Suppose you want to measure an item, say this one. What you have to do? First you keep the item in between the outside measuring jaw. This is called outside measuring jaw, and press it. Then you can tighten this one. Usually one more screw will be available here. Keep the item to be measured in between the fixed jaw and movable jaw. Then tighten the screw here. You can see here. Then read along the graduation. Now you can see the size of this item is 7.6 millimeter. Up to here you count the millimeter. You can measure the dimension. This is 0, and going along the main scale you can see the 0 of the vernier portion is coinciding near to 7, 5 mm, 6, 7, and in between 7 and 8. Then go along the vernier portion, vernier graduation. Here you can see 6 is accurately coinciding with the graduation in the main scale. So you can say that is 7.6 is the actual dimension of the item. This one. Okay. There are other type of verniers are also available. You can see one of the other type. This is a digital type. You can directly measure the item to an accuracy of 0.02 millimeter. This is another type of vernier. This is called a dial type vernier. You can see this one. There is a dial and a needle. This is also very easy to measure, so that you can quickly see the reading. Even without with some eye problem, you can use this one. The next important items you can see in any workshop is screwdrivers. Various types of screwdrivers you can see. This one is called reed and prince type, so that no shock will occur. This is another type of screwdriver. This is called Phillips head screwdriver. You can see the shape of the tip.
Okay.
See, this one colloquially it is called star type screwdriver, but the nominal not nominal. The actual technical name is Phillips type screwdriver.
Okay.
Phillips type screwdriver, and the size is specified by PH1, PH2, PH3, etc. PH1 is the smallest one, and PH up to PH4 is there. Usually we will get in the market. Actual technical name is Phillips type screwdriver.
Okay.
Phillips type screwdriver, and the size is specified by PH1, PH2, PH3, etc. PH1 is the smallest one, and PH up to PH4 is there. Usually we will get in the market according to the size of the screw to be tightened or loosened. In order to accurately measure any item, usually we use a item called micrometer. You might have studied about this one from your plus 2 classes. This is working on the principle of a screw which is provided inside the sleeve. Now I will tell you the parts of a micrometer. This one is called a U-frame. U-frame, and this is called a spindle. And there is a lock nut here. After taking the measurement, you can lock the item so that further movement will be stopped. You can see now it is locked. Further movement will be arrested. And this portion is called the anvil, where we will be placing the item and rotating this one up to the item. And this portion is called a thimble. This will be rotated to measure the item. And another item is provided here. This is called a ratchet stop. This ratchet stop is provided to apply the same force whenever any person is measuring. Suppose one person, if you are measuring with this one person may be applying more force and another person may be applying less force. But if you are using this ratchet stop, whoever may be using, the force applied will be same. So the accuracy will be the same. Okay. See, next item used in any workshop is various type of spanners. You know, spanners are used to tighten or loosen a bolt or screw, etc. You can see here the the item you can see here. Here it is written as 14. 14 is the opening width of the item. You can see 14 millimeter is the opening here. And the spanners are specified here. This side it is written as 15. That means here the width is 15 mm. The 15 mm, you can see the size of a nut. You can see here. This is for 13 mm. So the width across the flat of this nut is 13 mm. So that it is exactly going here 13 mm. Usually the size of the opening is 1.5 times the shank diameter. This is called shank diameter. So here we see it is 13. Actually 8 mm screw is this one. 8 into 1.5, that is 12. But usually for small sizes a small allowance is provided. Instead of 12 it is 13 mm. You can see here, this is 13 mm. And this is applicable, this allowance is applicable only up to 10 mm. After 10 mm you just multiply by 1.5 of the shank size, that is screw size, and if multiply by 1.5 you will get the size of the spanner. Suppose you want to tighten an item 10 mm, then you have to use 15. Actually 16 mm, usually 16 mm is used, a small allowance. But if you are using if you want to loosen or tighten a 12 mm bolt, then you have to take only 18 mm. No need for allowance. After 12 mm there is no allowance is required. Okay, this is called a double end spanner. Two sides are there. Usually 1 mm difference or 2 mm difference will be there. Similar to item, this is called a ring spanner. The problem of this one, if you are giving too much force, there is a tendency to become round shape here. The both corner will become round. Then afterwards you cannot tighten or loosen the item with this type of spanner. In order to avoid that one, usually a ring type of spanner is used. Here all the corners here you can see 6 corners are there. All the 6 corners are held by the this type of spanner, so that more force can be applied. No slipping will occur. Similarly, this is called, I told you, this is called ring spanner. Something like a ring is there, so it is called a ring spanner. And another type of spanner is usually used. This is called an adjustable spanner. Instead of using many type of spanner like this one, you can use only single item, so that for personal purpose, etc., it is advantageous. Only one spanner will be required to tighten all the items. It's called, by rotating the thumb screw, you can adjust the size. But you should be careful if you are tightening or loosening a small bolt or screw. Don't give too much force. The last item, this is called a box type of spanner. You can see this one. Now, see, I am going to tighten the item. Tightening usually in the clockwise direction. And if you are looking from top, you can see it will be in the clockwise direction. Now it is almost tight. In order to see, I am rotating in this side, then it is free. There is a ratchet mechanism inside this. In order to loosen the item, you have to press and rotate this item. Now this will be this direction, it is free, but in the other direction it is tight, so that you can loosen the item. Okay, this is the advantage of this item. One direction it will be tight, and the other direction it will be loose when you rotate this one. This is an extension rod. Suppose you have to tighten inside an item, and this will be interfering with the other items on the machine or somewhere. Then you can use this extension rod. Without an extension rod also you can use. Okay. This is all are about spanners. Usually you might have observed the bus operators loosening their the wheel. They will be using this one, so that they can accurately give the enough force, so that fault will not come out. This is called a pipe wrench. This is also comes under the spanner group. Here we can adjust the size of the opening by rotating this thumb screw. Here you can see the serration or teeth in the face of the jaw. This is a fixed jaw and this is a movable jaw. And in order to tighten or you loosen, you have to use. Suppose this is the pipe, you have to exactly adjust the item, and in this direction you can see only one direction it is rotating. See, in order to loosen, now suppose I am loosening this one. Suppose you want to tighten this, you have to keep the item here and move the item. That is given by the direction of teeth provided on the jaw of the pipe wrench. Okay. See, this one is called Allen key. Allen key is used to open or tighten a Allen screw or Allen bolt. You can see here in the ordinary bolt usually like this one, but in the Allen screw usually a depression is there with a hexagonal depression, so that you can use this key. This key is called Allen's key, and this screw is called Allen screw. Usually this type is used in machine building, so that there will be a threaded hole, and at the outer side of the threaded hole there should be a depression, so that this head will be going inside that depression and top side will be flush. If you are using this type item, it is difficult to keep inside. or you have to make a very large hole to go the spanner, and also very difficult to use like this one. So usually for machine building, Allen screws are used. See, in order to temporarily hold a workpiece, usually a combination plier is used. Suppose you want to hold this one, you can hold like this. And you are not having a correct spanner, in that case also you can use this one. This can be used not only for holding the item, you can cut the material also. Suppose you want to cut the small piece here, you can see both are different height, and I want the same height both sides. Then what you can do, you just hold the item and press the item, so that it will be ready. The combination play. Sometimes some item will be at a very deep place. Then you can use a plier called a nose plier. Suppose I have to hold an item inside this lot. See, I can use this one and hold the item. That is the purpose of this plier. This is called a nose plier. And pliers are usually told by the length of the item. See, in order to hold the, here you can see I am holding the item, but I have to apply force almost full time here, then only you can hold it. Suppose I want to, I am using this one. This is called a grip plier, called a grip plier. Now it is held. Even if you are leaving your hand, it is tight on the workpiece. In order to loosen the item, you can pull this lever. This is called lever. By pulling, it will come out. See, this one, many of the students might have seen this one. This is called a ball bearing. Ball bearing is used to reduce the friction. Suppose an item is rotating and one fixed shaft is there and one outer is there. Then suppose you think about a wheel of a bike, it will be rotating, the axle will be stationary and the outer will be rotating. If there is no ball bearing is there, the friction provided by the axle on the wheel will be more, so that it will become hot and it may spoil. In order to avoid that one, usually bearings are used. See, usually bearing will have mainly three parts. One is called the outer race. This portion is called the outer race, and this portion is called the inner race. And through this one, usually shaft will be coming. The balls are kept equidistant. You can see equidistant, and a small cover will be there that helps the balls in a proper position, equidistant position always. See, now we will see about another type of bearing. This is called a roller bearing. Instead of ball, some rollers are used. Rollers are something like a cylindrical item, and this will be rotating about the inner ring. In between, it is kept in between inner and outer races. See, think about a ball standing on a surface. Only one point will be touching on the surface. And think about a roller like this one, laying on a flat surface. You can see there is a line contact between the bottom surface and the and this roller. So you might have studied the intensity of force will be equal to load divided by area. Here area of contact will be more when compared to a ball. So for the same size of bearing, roller bearing can take more force than the ball bearing. Okay, that is the difference. That means if you are using the same size of outer size and a roller is used instead of ball, that can take more force, more load than ball bearing. That is the advantage of roller. See, all these one can take the force in the radial direction. Suppose you want to apply an axial force, then this type can take the axial force, only a very small axial force can take. But if you want to take more axial force, then you can use a tapered roller bearing. Here you can see is a tapered item. In this direction, you can apply more force, this direction. Suppose both the direction force is coming, then what usually do is keep an item like this one and another bearing in the opposite direction, so that you can apply the axial force in both directions. You think about the wheel of a motor car. While taking the curvature, axial force will come. So usually a tapered roller bearing is used. Okay. This is called O-ring. The name comes, if you are cut the cross section and look at this type of O, and this is usually made from artificial rubber, so that this will not dissolve in oil. This is used to prevent the leakage of oil or any type of liquid. Think about a gearbox in a vehicle. Usually gearbox is provided with gear oil, and some item will, some shaft will be going inside the gearbox, and usually one input shaft as well as output shaft. But there is a chance of leakage from both the ends, the entering end as well as the exit end of the shaft. So in order to avoid that one, usually shaft will be provided with a small groove, and this type of item will be inserted there tightly, so that no leakage will occur. Usually this type is the mainly used item. This is called a seal, oil seal. If you are using say two-wheeler, you will be kicking the kick starter whenever it is required. The kick starter end will be going inside the gearbox, so that no leakage should occur. So that the kick starter shaft, this type will be provided. Okay. See, next item usually used is a circlip. You can see this is a circlip. Inside is almost a circle, and there is a small projection in the outside. This one is called outer circlip. See, you can see this one. In a cylindrical item, there is a groove, and the circlip is provided here, so that the axial movement of this item will be prevented. Suppose you again think about a two-wheeler piston and a connecting rod. Connecting rod will be connected here like this, and this will be oscillating, and a piston will be this will be inside the piston, and in order to avoid the lateral movement of this pin, usually some circlip will be provided, so that it will not come out. This one what I already shown you is a external circlip. Here inside will be almost a circle, and a groove will be provided on the cylindrical item, and this will be expanded and kept inside that groove. This is another type of circlip. This is called internal circlip. Here outside will be almost a circle, and a small gap will be there, and inside some projection will be there. Okay, this will be used inside a hole. This you contract the item by using a special type of plier called a circlip plier. You press it and insert the, and inside the hole there is a groove. This will be going there. Then after that, suppose this one is the item, this will not come outside. That is the purpose of circlips, to prevent the axial movement of the item or component. See, I will tell you about the power transmission usually used in a mechanical workshop. Usually, power we have to give to many equipments. Usually, motor is the power source. That means electricity is converted, given to a motor, and a motor shaft will be rotating. From the shaft, we have to transmit the power to a machine. Suppose this is the shaft of a electric motor, and this will be rotating like this one. So then you have to take the power from the motor. For that, usually a pulley is used. Say this is the pulley, and power is taken from the pulley through a belt to the other machine. See, suppose this is the item, and the motor is switched on, what will happen? You can see the only inner item will be rotating. Pulley may not be rotating. In order to arrest the rotation, in order to lock the pulley and shaft, usually a key is used. This is called a key. You can insert a key here. You can see a slot is provided here. So you can use a key to like this one. So that when the shaft rotates, this pulley also will be rotating along the shaft. And from this, usually V belt is used to transmit a large power.